Hey, Prince Bosco here with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 Mario Kart tracks for Mario Kart 64. Mario Kart 64 is one of, if not the first game I've ever played, so I have a long history with it. This game is the one that set the precedent for all other Mario Karts to follow. It has 3 laps per track, brought in all the classic items, set the standard with its track design, and prepared the foundation for the mechanics that all future Mario Karts build off of. Mario Kart 64 has aged a little bit, but not compared to Super Mario Kart. And I think you could easily call this the quintessential Mario Kart. And its tracks are much more distinct and original and different than its predecessor. So this list is going to be a little more significant. So let's get in there and see which one of these classics is the best. Number 10, we have Choco Mountain. And already, this establishes that compared to Super Mario Kart, these tracks pop. And by that I mean they're in 3D. In this track, you're going to be navigating windy roads that weave between giant mountains that could be made out of chocolate, but I wouldn't recommend taking a bite. Choco Mountain really makes things get cramped, with little room to mess around in. And if you fire off a green shell, well, let's just say you're guaranteed to get a hit. This track has such a nice feel to it where it really feels like you're getting your tires dirty, and the fog makes it so that every turn could be hiding a secret. And when you get to the cliff edge where boulders are falling towards you, things can get hectic. But be careful when you're dodging because you could drive off the edge and end up falling to an earlier part of the track. In this mountain of Choco, things can get messy. Number 9, we have Sherbert Land. And yes, I know that's not what it's called, but as a kid I called it Sherbert Land. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is, so deal with it. Anyway, Sherbert Land is the best snow track of Mario Kart 64. Sorry, Frappe Snowland. While you don't have to deal with snowmen in this one, you do have to watch out for the penguins. Penguins everywhere. They seem to be trying to get revenge for you throwing one of their own off a cliff. I know that anyone who's played Super Mario 64 has done this. Anyways, this frozen lake kind of reminds me of Vanilla Lake if it didn't suck. And that's because of the penguins, and they had a fun challenge that makes traversing the glacier a little more difficult. The snowy cave is a very notable addition to it, and you might go into it first and you could come out at 4th. The cramped space contrasts with the more wide open spaces in a really fun way, where item play changes so drastically. Oh, and did I mention the penguins? You know what you did. In number 8, we have Calamari Desert, and you might be surprised to hear that there's absolutely no fried squid in this desert. I know, I was disappointed too. No, instead you get a train that just loves to get in your way. This train seems to be trapped in purgatory because these tracks literally connect to nothing, just round and round in circles as little lost train goes. This is what makes Calamari Desert so fun though, is trying to outrace the train. Do you risk it? Do you try to sneak by the train and leave everyone else at the crossing? Stars and ghosts are super handy here, as you don't have to pay the train any mind. While the train is the main attraction, the rest of the course doesn't offer too much else. It's a relatively simple design, but that makes it so that even if you manage to use the train to get ahead, you're never safe because there isn't much to stop red shells. Just remember when you're on this track, make sure you look both ways. In number 7, we have Toad's Turnpike. In this track, they have you racing with other traffic, or if you're in mirror mode, racing against traffic. This track seems simple enough, just a figure 8, right? Well, like I said, you're not the only one on this track. There are trucks and cars everywhere, and one wrong move will get you in a hit and run. And remember, you're just a dinky little cart, so you won't be left in a good position. This makes this simple track into a really fun game of Frogger meets go-karting, and trust me, things can get a little tight. Also, all of your item boxes are shoved to the side, so you got to go out of your way to get some items. While the computers just get their items from the void, I don't know, they cheat. Who says carts and trucks can't share the road? number 6, we have Angie Boardwalk, the spookiest track in the game. I mean, just listen to that music. That used to freak me out as a kid. If you have a fear of ghosts, or the dark, or bats, or giant fish, or cramped spaces, or boardwalks, then this track isn't for you. The atmosphere in this track says it all, and as a boardwalk, you are very vulnerable to taking a dip, especially with some of these sharp turns. As a kid, I could literally never make that turn. And if the threat of getting drenched is enough, then come to the Banshee Boathouse, where our hospitable bats will really bat you around. Good thing there's these red painted arrows to show you the way. Is that paint? That's paint, right? Where do these ghosts come from? Maybe it's best to not really think about it. This isn't just a race to get first. This is a race to not lose your wits. Now we are hitting the top 5, and Rainbow Road greets us. Now you might be a little surprised that Rainbow Road is lower than it is in Super Mario Kart, but that's not because this one's bad, it's just there's better tracks out there. This track is long, very long. So long, in fact, that it's the longest track in all of Mario Kart. This can make it feel a little tedious to complete, especially in time trial, but that doesn't mean it's bad. The design is pretty grand. I mean, it starts with the sharpest drop where you can just float away. Not to mention chain chomps are here for some reason. But I think the best thing about this Rainbow Road is that it is the perfect ending to Mario Kart. The grand music is amazing. The constellations of all the racers and items you've seen along the way really gives it a feel of finality. And with the relatively peaceful drive through space, there's something ethereal about it. While it doesn't hold up as well as other Mario Kart tracks, it's still nice to play after a long session of Mario Kart. In number 4, we have Royal Raceway. And you might look at it and think, what's so special about it? It's a road. Where's the Royal? Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's right. There's the castle from Super Mario 64. You can drive right up to it and say hello. That alone makes this track awesome. But wait, there's more. The track has an awesome design with tight turns and crazy windy turns. And let's not forget the craziest jump, where you get flung through the sky and slammed onto the road. Oh, and look, there's a... what are those things? Apparently they're piranha plants? Right. Well, ignore those things off to the side and just bask in the green hills and peaceful pond. This track is just simply a good solid Mario Kart track. Coming in at number 3 is Koopa Troopa Beach, which happens to be the only beach with that name. In the spirit of being a sequel, it took the idea of Koopa Beach and added Troopa to it. Oh, and made it way better. What I like so much about this track is that it feels so open. There's so many different ways to tackle this track. It's like a choose your own adventure book. You could drive straight and proceed like that, or you could wind around this rock. It's the only track to have a long cut. Speaking of long cuts, you could be a sly little bugger and take the coolest shortcut in the game, where you slip through this tunnel and end up through a waterfall. Not only is this track wide open, but also some sneaky obstacles like crabs and palm trees, and the water itself moves with the tide, which also continuously changes how you approach the track. Koopa Troopa Beach really feels like you're just go-karting on a beach with all the available options at your fingertips. And that is quite exciting. In second place, we have Yoshi Valley. And I know I was just praising Koopa Troopa Beach for being wide open and having so many ways of going about it, but yeah, Yoshi Valley takes that idea and cranks it to 11. I mean, the track is so crazy the game can't even keep track of where all the racers are. How have you failed us? Well, actually, I think this is actually a pretty cool addition. It makes it so that you have to use your own point of view to be able to tell where all the racers are and where you are relative to them. Now, everyone has their own way to tackle this track. Do you take the more risky route around the left, or do you go over the bridge with even more options to choose from, with porcupines residing in your way? Once you clear that crazy maze, now you're faced with a giant egg? Where the heck did that come from? What Yoshi laid that? If you're lucky, you can squeeze by without getting squished, and after all that kerfuffle, you still got 2 more laps. This track is a chaotic, sprawling mess that creates the most hectic party fun. And it's hard to compete with a track like that. But of course, there is one. But before I get to that, I'd actually like to mention some honorable mentions here. So now we reach number 1, and that is Bowser's Castle. And this one just nails its aesthetic. And the 3D environment really makes you feel like you're breaking into Bowser's Castle, even if you're playing as Bowser. And this castle punishes you for your breach of entry. The Thwomp army you have to deal with, well, let's just say they've really stepped it up since being switched to 3D. The Thwomps have become deadly, sliding across the floor, chasing you down, blocking your route. They truly do feel like guards trying to take you out. And they just laugh. Even this guy, what's he doing here? Anyways, even when you manage to escape the castle, the outside isn't much more friendly. With a twisty spiral, leaps over burning lava, and questionably sturdy bridges, it never feels safe. I mean, the first thing you're greeted with is a giant statue trying to burn you alive. The track is extremely dynamic, and not only feels like a race, but an adventure, where you're battling the environment just as much as the other racers. And because of this, Bowser's Castle 1 has got to be the number 1. I might even be a little scared if I didn't put it in that place. And there you have it, that is my top 10. And this one was a pretty hard list to come up with, because in a way, I kind of did grow up on these tracks. I was dodging those thwomps and those space chain chomps and getting hit with random coconuts. But I feel very confident that these tracks are some of the best that Mario Kart has to offer. But is there a reason to go back and play today? I think yes. Because this one really captures the feel of just driving around in a go-kart with some friends. It might not be as fast-paced as other ones, but it has just an unspeakable, amazing charm to it. So grab your N64 remotes and, you know, get some friends together and play some Mario Kart 64. But yeah, that's probably about all I got to talk about today. That's my list, that's the way it is. Do you agree with it? Let me know what your favorite Mario Kart 64 tracks are. And I think that's all for me today. So see ya and stay awesome.